Hi, and welcome to Marketing Adventures with Carmel. This is a place where we bring some amazing business owners and entrepreneurs so that they can help you get over some of the stuff that you're stuck with because they've already been there. So if you're on social media, please make sure to give us a thumbs up or a comment or question down below. If you're on YouTube, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and that little bell so you'll get alerted every time there's an interview with some of these amazing people. So I like to bring you some inspiring and real business builders and exceptional entrepreneurs that have overcome some of those hurdles that really may be something that can give you insight into how you can overcome it. So why reinvent the wheel, right? Now, during these interviews, we do share some real tips, tricks, and insights from those business owners and entrepreneurs so that you can actually put them into place yourself, or maybe there'll be a giveaway or whatever that is. So make sure that you hang on in there because my guest today is amazing. So I'm Carmel, your host, and my guest today is Michael. Make sure that I pronounce your last name properly. Is it Daisley?
Daisley, that's correct,
Daisley.
yes.
Michael Daisley. Michael is all the way from Scotland, although he does live here in Perth, pretty close to me. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much for having me today. Looking forward to it.
Yes, me too. So I know today we're going to be talking about some awesome information, but let me actually introduce you properly instead of just throwing you under the bus like that. Like, who is Michael anyway? So look, Michael has always strived to do things better in every job that he's held, from working as the lead of a transformation office to overlooking the portfolios of continuous improvement and innovation with statewide organizations. Like big organizations here, guys, we're talking. So he knows what he's talking about. And when I tell you what he's talking about, you're really going to know that this guy knows his stuff. So one thing Michael found was that he came across the same problem, like a gap in the need for business process management. Now, quite often we hear the word process and we go, processes, what the hell? But Michael understood the massive benefits of adopting this into the culture and into your business, because if you don't have a process, well, then you're running around basically like chucks with your head chopped off. So rather than wait, Michael has established his pretty new company called Optimise Consultants, where he now partners with business owners looking to develop the leading business process management practices so they can scale and improve their business. Now, if you are a small business, maybe you're just starting out when you're watching this habit that we're going to talk about today is something to really put in place right now before you get to a stage where you realize down the track you've no processes, you've no anything in your business, so you don't actually have a business to sell or a business to market because it's not there. So Michael does believe that this number one habit is the best thing to develop now that will make a difference to your business in the long run. So we're going to talk about the number one habit to use so you can save time in your business. But tell us, before we dig into the guts of it, tell us a little bit more about when you discovered some of this stuff, Michael. Tell us a little bit more about you.
So, I date back to being an entrepreneur from the age of 8. Realistically, from being in Bonnie, Scotland, putting flowers into water, shaking it and selling perfume to the local ladies, going and shoveling snow off of everybody's actual, place. So I've been in business a long time, and I've had many different businesses in the past. And for every single business I've had in the past, each one of them got to a point and then fell away, got to a point,
Right.
then fell away. So I was always thinking, what's happening here? What's going on? Don't know, haven't got a clue. And then I found myself really kind of taking flight in the corporate world. My kind of background originated, I used to do telesales, telemarketing. So I was on the phone, the guy selling insurance and everything else to you.
Oh, wow.
I used to do 800 calls per day when I worked in Glasgow.
Lord.
Yeah. And I had to get 4 sales within that day. And it was just one call after the other. And I was the best at what I actually did, because I realized from that experience, you've not got a business if you've not got any sales. It doesn't matter if you're selling a product or a service. So that fundamentally was one of the biggest lessons I learned, was how to sell and the process of how to sell, because there was about maybe say 100 odd people within the call center floor as well, doing the exact same job as me. However, I was at the top, and it was because I learned a process. And as soon as I got that process, I rinsed and repeated it. And then that took me on to kind of like, once I traveled over to Australia, as you mentioned before, I worked for some major corporations, statewide corporations, and really kind of understood, as you said, the fundamentals of the way things were done. Yeah. I was the go-to guy to learn everything. However, I'm going to give your viewers a very early trick, right? So somebody used to come up to me all of the time and say, Michael, I've been sent to you. How do you do this thing? Right now, technology, the internet is your best friend right now. And I used to actually have this mug. And if you read my mug, it says, keep calm and Google it. And I used to say, what was it you just said that you want to know? And they would say to me, and as they said to me, I would type into Google, how do you do the thing that they've just said? And I press enter, and it would say, oh, this is going to take you 25 minutes to learn. And I would say to the person, listen, I'm available in half an hour. Can I come back to you? And they go, yep. And they'll go away. I would watch the video for 25 minutes and learn that process. I would learn how that thing was done.
It. Yeah.
I would then take that information. Now I've got new IP to myself, and then I would go and teach it. And then I would teach it to people within the organization. So all of a sudden, and that propelled me within my career, propelled me. Now, what was stopping that person going and figuring out the process? What was stopping that individual? Who knows? However, what didn't stop me made me grow. So then all of a sudden, I was kind of going, wow, there's major gaps. Now, when I was working on the largest website development and digital marketing company within Perth, we had 1,200 clients on our portfolio. And this was ranging from businesses that had just started out to businesses that were turning over tens of millions of dollars per year. I was the service delivery manager in that process, and I was the main cog between the wheels to make sure that everything flowed through end to end. So, that's kind of like a very high level journey of where I've came from, what I've actually done. But as you quite rightfully said, every single business that I go into doesn't know the process. It's in their head, it's in their head, which is great. But then there's confusion between the employees, there's different ways of doing things, and all of a sudden you find that these people are wasting time, effort, money, everything else in between, because they've simply not got the habit of understanding what is the step-by-steps that I'm expecting as a business owner for not only me to do, but anybody that I'm bringing on board.
Yeah. And look, I can't believe you had to do 800 calls to get 4 sales. My head's still stuck over there. It's like, oh my God. And I love talking, but I'm not too sure I would have done that. And the thing about it is, it's something for me that you do kind of semi-repetitively. It's like, if you ever need to hand that over to somebody without a process, it's hard. And look, I've had VAs and I do work quite closely with another young girl, Sarah. And we actually had to go, well, how do you do that? And I went, like you say, it was in here. Yeah. So how do the small to medium businesses that maybe they're at a stage, they maybe have 1 or 2 staff, or they're thinking of getting a VA or something like that, what kind of processes are they best to put down as a process, or where do they even start?
The number one process that I would say, it doesn't matter if you're just starting off in business or you've been in business a long time and you've not got this down, is your sales process. What is your sales process? Like, how do you make a sale? Yeah. Because that process alone is like, do you send out an email? And it's all about the customer at that point. So what's the customer experience that you're actually bringing that prospect to customer on board? So I would say very get it down pat, because the way that you're going to scale within your business is then through selling more services or products. So therefore, if you're wanting to sell more services or products, there's going to be two platforms and people that are going to do that. It's going to be other people coming in and doing it for you, or a system. Yeah. So it's either going to be technology that's going to sell it, or it's going to be people that's going to sell it. So therefore, when you bring more people on, technology-wise or people-wise, you want to be able to say to them, here's the playbook. This is how we play the game. This is how we sell. These are the expectations. These are the objection handles. These are the rebuttals, so on and so forth. That is the number one process that everybody should be having down on their book as well. And it also makes it real, even if you've not got those technology or the people coming in so far, it also makes it a real tangible artifact that you're able to look at and almost question yourself, is this the best way? Is this the best way? And until it's outside your head and written on paper, and it is that tangible artifact, you don't really get the opportunity to be then objective to say, would I buy off myself? And then that's when you start to actually refine it, get better at it, and really kind of reap the benefits of that process.
1,000,000%, because when it's there in black and white, and look, I did a big webinar on the 1st of the month, and now I'm unpacking it and I'm going, well, where did it go well? Where did I put the ums and ahs and the whatever? And where was the journey I brought them on? And really looking at it. And I do that every time, you know, if I have something new. So it was for a new product. So it's like, okay, well, where did people stay on till? Where did I lose them? What can I change? But it's after the fact. In the moment, oh my God, can I talk for Ireland? Absolutely.
So that's actually a really great technique that also you should be adopting, because what you're doing there is you're retrospecting what had just happened. So therefore, if you've got a process down pat, and then you stop that webinar, you know, pitch, presentation, whatever it might be, and then you're retrospecting, and from that comes continuous improvement, because you're able to then look back on it and say, did I stick to that? Did I go off script? If I did by going off script, did it work? Yes, it did. Right. Now add that into the process. So you know, it's a great technique to have within that as well.
Yeah. So sales, I agree with you totally, because if you don't have sales, either you don't have a business. So for somebody that was watching this, it's like, okay, you're telling me I need to do sales, but that's the one thing I'm crap at. and that's quite often what happens. People have their genius over here at, you know, like for me, it's now video making and marketing and things like that. So people have their genius over there, but they're not great at sales, or they're not great at the finances. And I get that they're all a process. So where would they start putting that process into place? For example, sales, because that's what we're talking about right now, if they feel they're not good at sales?
Well, I'll tell you right now, if you've got a business, you need to get good at sales, and it's a fundamental. So therefore, you know, you're going to have to realize that, you know, the idea or the concept and the thing that's really your strength, there's other things within the bubble of business that you're going to have weaknesses at. It's because A, you've probably never done it before. B, you just simply, you know, it's quite overwhelming because it seems too much. Or C, you're telling yourself this story that you're not actually good at it. Yeah. So realistically, it needs done, because if you are the founder, the CEO, managing director, you want to have an oversight into all of these areas. Now, do you need to continue doing it into the future once you've grown your business and you've got enough capital and got enough revenue to then get someone else to do it? Of course, you can get someone else to do it later down the line. However, if you want to succeed in business, this is where, again, it's the fundamental principle of actually getting that process down, because I guarantee you, when you put it down, you do it, you're not good at it, you'll get better, because you'll repeat it. You'll repeat it and you'll repeat it. And it's like anything, right? I was absolutely rubbish at 90% of the stuff that I do now, right?
Yeah.
But I'm fantastic at it now, because I've done that. I've done the process, I've retrospected it, I've put it into practice, so on and so forth. But I'm at a point where I go, do you know what? I really don't like doing that. I much prefer going and swimming in my pool with my dog. So therefore, let's actually take that segment of business and give it to a sales team, or give it to a virtual assistant, or give it. But then I've got the confidence that whoever I've given it to is going to do it right, because then all of a sudden I'm able to then grab analytics from that process and a dashboard view and think to myself, right, are they then doing it? So I don't need to be in the weeds, but I'm getting an oversight of what is going on within my business, because you will get to that point where you're going to then have to then come up and look horizontal rather than the vertical. and you need a high level analytical data to be able to give you insight to say, is this all flowing quite well? Gravy, beautiful. But if there's any amber or if there's any red or indicators, you want to be able to dive into that and understand exactly what should be doing and what should be going on so you can resolve it quickly, not expect someone else to do it, because again, then you're putting your business into someone else's hands, unless it's a partner, right enough.
Yeah, and all too often, that I like that you brought that up, because that is one of the biggest mistakes I see. I know an awful lot of people that have VAs, for example, and they go boom, boom, boom. Now, the VA is doing that. And they don't look at any results like KPIs. Yeah, it's like, oh, well, she's my social media person, or she's my salesperson, or she's my whatever. And they tend to leave it. And then they go, oh, my God, my VA is crap. It's like, well, is she? Or have you just not taught them well enough? And,
exactly.
You know, it's been able to look, it's that metaphor of looking in the mirror or looking out the window, and quite often we look out the window, look, it's crap there, all no good, instead of looking in the mirror and going, how can I do that better? How can I? And I agree with you totally. You have to. There's some parts of my business I don't love, let's be honest with you. I just don't, but I know how to dive down and do it. I'm like, it propels me to get somebody else to do it even quicker. When shit isn't going right, when somebody else is supposed to do it, I can do it. I just don't want to.
Which is a great point that you actually pick on there. So, because let's be honest, right? 80% of everybody that starts a business, the stuff that they're doing can actually be delegated. Yeah. It's going to be delegated at one point. You're not special, right? You might actually have a 10% gift, but realistically, 80 to 90% of business operations can be delegated. So therefore, I would be saying to yourself, what bits do you want to be delegating right off the bat? And they're the bits that you want to actually have the processes down pat. So let's take your virtual assistant as an example of that, right? So if you're not comfortable of them actually, you doing the process for them, right? You do it together, right? And you could ask leading questions like, what would be if you're dealing with my social media and the whole objective is to heighten engagement, what is the process that you're going to do that? Get them to do it. And then they do it. And then basically you think to yourself, okay, so you're going to reach out to 100 accounts, blah, blah, blah. And you really dive into exactly what is going on there. And then you can set expectations in respect to parameters within that process. So therefore, if they say to you, I'm going to reach out to 100 LinkedIn accounts and, you know, send 100 ebooks out per day, right? Yeah. And you go, all right, I feel that should be at least 150. Yeah. So therefore, all of a sudden, you're setting the targets, which is then the KPI, which is then the management of that employee, which is a totally different process in itself. So as you can see, all of a sudden, there's layers and layers and layers of different processes. And when you're able to have management, because most people fail in that process as well, where they're actually dealing with the management side of things, and think to yourself, right, in the process, we're going to meet twice a week, we're going to discuss this, we're going to go over your KPIs, and then we're going to see room for improvement. That's a process. And implementing it. Yeah. So if you're feeling that you don't know where to start, the best thing to do is just start somewhere. Now, there's easy ways to actually have a process. It doesn't need to be complicated, right? Now, I've got a thing where I create playbooks for people. Yeah. And if you could imagine like Wikipedia, where it's information, but then there's hyperlinks into it. And imagine that as a playbook, right? So within your playbook of processes, everything should hyperlink and jump to something else. And the playbook structure is simple. It is, number one, what's the step-by-step? Yeah, literally, it is, you know, like think about it when you were starting a business, you're going through a process without you realizing. So you would be conducting your market research. You would be writing a business plan. You'd be funding your business. You'd be picking up your business location. Is it online? Is it offline? You'd be choosing your structure. You'd be, you know, registering your business. You'd be going for your tax and IDs. You'd be applying for your license and permits if you needed any. You'd be opening your bank account. That itself is a whole. There you go. There's a free process for those that are looking to start a business. And the reason it has to be linear is because without doing, many people focus and they get too foggy, and all of a sudden there's so many elements to do within business, but there is a step by step. So that would be the top half of the playbook. The next part of the playbook would be references. So therefore, if we take the VA for social media example, you might say, oh, I really like these 5 social media accounts and the way that they're conveying to their audiences. So I want you to reference these different media accounts and see the way that they're actually structuring their content, blah, blah, blah. And then the third element is templates. So therefore, is there specific, structure that you want to write yourself that is repeatable? So is there your values, and are you writing content that they can pick up and grab and place into the process? So that structure alone is called a playbook. And if you take those 3 elements and start just flushing things out in respect to that, you're on to a winner. You don't need technology. It can be a simple Word document or a Google Sheet, kept onto your actual Google Drive, and just starting that practice. Because as I said, as soon as you get into that habit, the quicker that you can actually delegate this to someone else and grab that time back to focus on the things you love about your business.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things I used when I was training my VA was video. So I would think of something and I'd kind of go, oh shit, I need to tell her. So I'd literally put on Zoom, press record, and go, when I talk about these are the steps I want you to take. So she actually had a playbook in a video that would connect to maybe 10 other things. It's like, you're doing this. When you're doing that, here's how you log into that, or here's how you do that thing. So I didn't have to keep repeating it, because there's so much information. Whoever you're getting to do some of your stuff, there's an awful lot of information coming at them with all different processes. And if they get stuck and they're sitting there looking at the screen going, oh, I don't want to ask that person again, they have a link, they have a video, they have a process that they can easily access.
I think that's a really important point, and we incorporate Loom in our actual video. Loom. And the reason we do Loom is because it's a free account you can set up, and you're able to record 5 minutes free, right? Now, if you want premium, you can go over and above that, but I'm like, do it in 5 minutes. Like, who cares? Nobody wants to be looking at something for somebody babbling on for like 15, 20 minutes. It's like 5 minutes, you're recording it, you need to get it out. And within that references part of the playbook, we would just have the hyperlinks to those videos and to the Loom videos, because ultimately that's the training element of that. So I would strongly advise any of your viewers, if you've not already looked into that, go to Loom and subscribe for free. It is a fantastic tool to keep that library of training as you grow your business.
And exactly. And there's so many tools out there that are free or low cost to be able to do those, because I think Zoom has a similar. For me, it was important to be able to share my screen and still keep me on the screen and actually point out. That's why I use StreamYard now, because it can go live to so many places. And as you can see, there's a banner going across the bottom. I can pop up different things. And that's functionality that I'm not too sure about Loom, but I know Zoom doesn't necessarily have as easy. So there's lots of tools out there. This is a free account on StreamYard even, I think.
And I think that's a very important point to place it out as well, that many people feel that, they have to pay for subscription after subscription after subscription. But realistically, there is a lot of platforms out there that offer a free service. I think I've only recently just started paying for Canva Pro. Every other platform that I've got is either a free account, and I just work within that perimeter because I want to make sure that the time and effort that I'm getting the maximum return back of my business. For me, that's the whole point that I started a business, was to generate as much income for me without having to actually put it out there. And again, I have a process, so therefore, I might sign up for an account, but I have a 3 monthly process to go in and check. I end up saying to them, how many accounts do you have for this subscription? They're like, I don't know, actually, now that you mentioned that. And then when you dive into it, all of a sudden you're going, you are paying an additional $40 per month on this one subscription. You've got 5 subscriptions. The other people have left because you didn't have an offboarding process.
Yes,
so therefore, because there was no offboarding, so therefore, all of a sudden, $40 per month seems like nothing, but then split across 4 or 5 different actual platforms, all of a sudden, it's money that you could be using for advertising, for, red wine, a bottle of Shiraz, so on and so forth.
Nice meal, absolutely. But you're so right, because, and I found myself, I had to catch myself doing it there a few years ago, was even if it's the Spotify or we have our Netflix, and the next thing you know, you have a Google's something else, or you have a fitness app, or you have a this app. Next thing it's Zoom, and then you have I use Airtable, I use Asana, but they're all, even the booking. What do I use? I use Acuity. Some people use Calendly, but they're all $10, $15, $20. If you're not using them, that is money that you could be redirecting towards something else, and possibly getting somebody else to do the stuff you don't want to do. Because, but it does build up. Yeah, and it builds up because there's so many tools available and so many things that we can use. So sales is the big process. And I love that you explained about the playbook, because for me, I've done some processes. I haven't done them all. I need some more work, but that's okay. But what I found, and tell me if this is your process, I had to step away from my computer to work out a process. Like I literally had to walk away from that. I use mind maps is one of the ways I can do it. I'm obviously quite a visual person. So I will literally start and I'll track, well, if this is where I want to go, and I advise all of my members and clients to do the same, even with videos. It's like, what do I want the outcome to be? And then I reverse engineer it. Like my favorite thing to do is to reverse engineer it. Is that how you work it out?
So I'm very old school, where I love a whiteboard. Yeah, I'm a whiteboard man.
I have one of those too.
So I really, when I'm looking at a process, I'm really kind of getting to know, like I always close my eyes and, imagine me going through literally the step by step. It's like, what do I do? Right, okay, I sit down, I do that, I do this, and I really get granular about the actual process, because many people, we've done a fun, and the reason I'm saying this is because we do, when we facilitate in respect to businesses and when we're telling them about process, we do a fun icebreaker. And what that is just to get people into the flow of something. So we break them into teams, and we say to them, right, okay, you're going to write a process to make, to make toast. And you just leave them with that. You're going to make toast. How would you do it? And the differences that you get from people, they're going, do this, do that. And we also show, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the dad is really, really good. He gets his kids to write a process for buttering or getting peanut butter and, doing a sandwich, a peanut butter jelly sandwich. And they keep coming back, and the kids are kind of going, because he's like, stick the knife in the actual tub, and he goes, and he just spit, and it's like that. Get the tub and put it onto the bread. And he's like, and he's just showing them visually, each and every time. So, I really kind of like data dump absolutely everything down, first of all. Then I step away from it, and I think to myself, right, if I was brand new, because remember, it's not someone that knows what to do you're trying to actually teach. It's someone that has never done it before, or they've got a little bit of, insight to it, but not really understanding the full thing. So then when I get that mindset on, I think to myself, right, so if I had to do this and I had never done it before, where would I need to begin? And sometimes you even find yourself going, God, I've not even told them to log in. I've not even told them where to go. I've not even told them what address to put in, so therefore that's what I do in respect to that, because essentially what I'm trying to achieve, the whole objective of me doing a process is to give it to someone else for them to do, and for me not to have to actually do it, and for them not having to come to me and ask me how to do it. So once I give you it, you should never come and ask me what you should do next, because that's the process. If that does happen, then there's something wrong with the process. I've missed a step. or
Yes.
I need to add something into it. And that
Yeah.
feedback, you should be taking it and implementing it like that. So that's my basis of my process. I data dump absolutely everything.
Yeah.
You know, it can be something as, you know, granular as it needs to actually be. Step away from it and then think to yourself, if I was brand new coming into this organization and the whole objective of this process is to publish a social media Canva, you know, post on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, does this actually achieve the outcome? And if it's a yes, great. If it's a no, do it again. Add in the bits.
Yeah. It's just, you're just reminding me way back when I was a trainer, a hospitality workplace health, whatever trainer. But one of the things for my test at the time was to teach someone how to make an Irish coffee, to do the process of an Irish coffee. And it was like, because I thought it was easy. I said, oh, process, you just put, you know, coffee, sugar, whiskey, and you put the cream on it. But like when it came down to writing the process, it was like, holy God, I haven't told them what glass and what shape of glass to get and to warm the glass first before you put the coffee in, to make sure that it's not just sugar. It has to be brown sugar is best. And to put in extra coffee because that's what holds up the cream. And like, it was this big, long process. And I'm going, oh my God, I had made Irish coffees in my sleep, and I don't even drink coffee, but I had made them so often in hospitality that I thought this will be the easy one. They'll all be doing 10,000 steps, but the process was actually, for that new person in your head, you're right, was actually quite elongated. I was like, oh Jesus, I don't know what else I could have chosen. But I think, and the point I was making was get away. It's like, it's not something you can sit down in front of your computer and go this and this. I've a whiteboard too, but sometimes it's a bit of a mind map on it to start with the brain dump. It's like, okay, and then I go, well, what needs to come first? What do they need to know before they can do that step? Like if you say pick up a piece of paper, well, what kind of paper is it? Is it a notebook? Is it an A4 size piece of paper? What is it? So really questioning yourself like that. And I think that's where people get caught up. Sometimes they go, no, process, I have to sit down and write down the steps. It's like, take yourself away from that. Take yourself away from the normal day to day. And especially if it is something that you are repeating all the time, put it into a process. Because I don't know about you, Michael, but I have sometimes done something and I've practiced it and it's been brilliant. But then I haven't had to do that process for 12 months. And then I've gone back and I have to go, oh, where do I start? I know I've done, and it's kind of like delving through all these old archives in your brain to remember it.
And that's and this is why I was saying it's very important to have, you know, this knowledge base that you're building into your business. Because that essentially is your intellectual capital. So let's be honest, right? You get into business for 3 reasons. You're starting a business to sell it. Like you're literally starting it to sell it straight away so you can get money back. You're starting it to franchise it because you've got a nice model and you want to actually then put it out to market, or you're starting it because you really love what you're actually doing and you want to do it until the day that you want to retire and then you sell it. So like you ultimately are in either those 3 buckets. Now, if in all 3 scenarios you have no intellectual capital, if you've not got a knowledge base of how you do it. No one's going to buy nothing off of you if you're not handing them the instructions of this is how you run this business upside down. This is how you franchise the business, and this is how you make sure that you're generating money. Or if you're bringing people on, this is how we run the operations. Because if you're then the one man, nobody gets. And this is what I want to be really clear that I'm talking to business owners, not one-man bands. If you're a one-man band, then at the end of the day, you're just probably going to do you're just going to do your thing. You're self-employed, and then you go away. You do your thing, and you've no aspirations to grow, get more employees. That's fine, no problem at all. You know, would you write down a process? Probably not, because you might just be, doing what you're doing. However, if you've got bigger aspirations that you want to bring on more employees, you want to actually grow your business, it is fundamental habit you need to get into now. We're actually seeing a rise because of technology and because of, certain businesses like Amazon and, the big businesses, Motorola, that really looked into their continuous improvement and how they actually lean out their processes. And we're seeing a rise within small to medium-sized entrepreneurs and business owners in 2022 that are focusing on processes, especially with climate change now. Now, our carbon footprint, there's a lot of focus within certain areas of business that are saying, right, okay, the process that you're doing, what carbon footprint is it actually then generating from that? And we're now getting insights to say, oh, this actual process is producing this. We need to get to that. So how are we going to change that process? What are we going to do fundamentally within the business to reach that target? Now, you might not be having a carbon footprint, but you might be saying, well, how much money am I wanting to actually save? Because if I'm only making X and I'm outlaying Y, then I want to walk away from Z. So where in that actual process can we get a little bit leaner and a little bit chew off the fat and basically still provide an excellent customer journey? So I would highly recommend, and to also kind of like say to people as well, if you do like computers, you don't always need to walk away from it to do your processes. What I would advise though is put down a list, even if it's in a Word document, and write it all out. Because I sometimes do that if I've not got my whiteboard, because I've not got a whiteboard with me, and I'll put it down into my A4 pad. But then, and again, it's just data dumping. But then what I do is I go back to it, and then I actually say, right, what do I need to do first? What do I need to do second? And then by the side of it, I'll have then a number 2, 4, 1, 3, 5, 7, 6, so on and so forth. So then when you eventually come back to the computer, you're able to create that flowchart. Now with technology, you'll find that there's going to be, if you're able to then get that process down pat, there's a load of applications like Zapier that are able to actually link all your different actual, technology that ultimately can automate the process. So all of a sudden, something that you used to do, you don't no longer need to do because you've learned a new way of actually doing it as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that because there is so much automation. And I mean, like quite often I've been sitting at our members call and I hear ding on my phone. And I go, oh, there, somebody's just paid me or somebody's just signed up for this. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. And I'm not touching it. And they came out in necessity because I was going, I can't keep doing this if I want to do this. Yeah. So tell me, if somebody is aspiring, so even if they are kind of starting or they've been in business for a while and they've got 1 or 2 staff, how often would you say that they have to kind of check themselves and go, I need to make everything into a process? So they can't sit down and do, unless they have, of course, the gift of so much time to do all of their processes. Would you say like at least once a week or once a month, you need to be putting a new process into place, like actually recording that process?
I think there's a fundamental process that business owners need to do, which is time box out their actual time that they've got in their week by week calendar. So, ultimately when I start with them, because I do business coaching off to the side with entrepreneurs, and I say to them, right, okay, so what is your business? What are you actually doing and where are you at right now? And they give me that information. Then I say to them, okay, within any given week, you need to now put time box out what you're going to do and how you're actually going to do it. So, what must you do? Have you ever heard of the Moscow? It's really, what must you do? So they're like, I must. Oh, so Moscow is a fantastic method. Again, something else I can be able to advise your viewers. So it's basically because let's be honest, you've got 1,000,010 things that you have to do within a business, right? But you've only got so much time and effort to actually give. So Moscow is basically looking at that list of activities that you've actually got to do and think to yourself, okay, what must I do? What should I do? What could I do? And what won't I do at this actual time? And by applying that method, all of a sudden you kind of like take yourself back and go, oh, I'm so glad that I'm only going to be focusing on these activities. Yeah. Within those activities, you then take them off to your actual calendar and you schedule them in. And you constantly go back and forth. And see, even if you get into that habit of doing that, that itself is a process, and you will churn through and grow your business 10 times quicker because you're not flapping about, right? Now, what I would say to you is, see, as soon as you start to see within that schedule management and prioritization management, things that you're repeating. Yeah, because that's the whole point of a process. What is it you're having to do over and over again? As soon as you recognize a pattern or something that you're having to do over and over, then you dedicate the time to make sure that that's then processed. That could be once a week, it could be once a fortnight, it could be once a month. But as soon as you see that pattern, then you want to get on top of that straight away. The reason being is that as you grow and you get through those musts and you get onto the shoulds and you get onto the coulds, all you'll see is more things repeating in your schedule, because that's all it is. That only so much of your time is actually ad hoc. Is actually one off. Most of it is then repeatable, like marketing. Like your payroll. It's all boom, 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 boom. And if you leave everything till the last moment, then all of a sudden you've got a list like this that's repeatable, no knowledge base, and everybody's just confused. How should you do this? What's it going? People then think it's in my head, it's okay. They don't, but most people don't say what they mean or mean what they say. So therefore that person thinks that they've told the person, the VA or whatever, this is how it should be.
I said it in here. You're so right. That's what I said.
They walk away and the person goes, huh? What?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is where we find inefficiencies. This is where we find, lost time, lost revenues, no opportunities. And most people then ending up just putting out fires every single week rather than being...
That's exhausting.
Exhausting. Yeah. And we see it all the time. We see people completely reactive because at the end of the day, they've no, people are constantly coming and asking them things. People are constantly, rather than being proactive and building that knowledge base off to the side.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, there's so many tools. Another one I use is Asana. And so when I have a marketing campaign coming up, I have a template. You could go in and follow the steps in my marketing campaign template. You might know exactly what emails to send out. Of course, I'd have to send you them or whatever. But the steps of what you need to do before it, during it, whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook or whatever, are all in there. Yeah. And I've built that up over time because for that process. Yeah.
Asana is a fantastic project management tool, and again, there's a free version of that and a paid version of that. I would and as I said, within the tool, it's great to have that first pass. However, when you step back, you'll actually, once you get really good at writing down processes and these actual techniques, all of a sudden you'll be able to step back and think to yourself, okay, what's the end-to-end process? And people say, what do you mean? And you're like, well, that's then a workflow. So therefore, you'll have a singular activity or process for that activity, but it's then connected to either end of maybe someone's job or someone's expectations. So then you're starting to then build up workflows and flow charts of how things are actually really done. And the reason that's really important is because when you bring anybody into the business, people need to see the end to end. They need to actually understand what is the start and what is the finish of it. As soon as you get someone looking at the end to end and they got that knowledge, they fly. You've got the best employee in the world because you've given them the tools and you've given them the methods to succeed in your business. Most people leave management, they don't leave jobs, they leave people of leadership, and it's because they've not been nurtured, they've not been told, they've not been educated in how to actually do it.
Absolutely. And not being nurtured in any way, shape or form. I remember having a job many years ago where I actually trained to be a trainer. And I always remember going to the human resources guys and go, look, I've trained. So, what can you give me? Because I was a manager of an Irish, a big Irish bar at the time. And they actually said to me, can I speak off the record? And I said, yeah. And they said, you're too good at what you do. We're never going to give you any work doing that. Now, I had all the processes in my head of the job I was doing, which had never gone down on paper. And they ended up without that manager in there because I left because I wasn't being acknowledged. And it was nothing to do with money. It was nothing to do with anything. Nope. It was they wouldn't help me. They wouldn't let me do a new process because I knew this one back. And I would have helped them and handed it over to somebody else. But it was like, okay.
And I think that's a really important point that you put there, right? That what they've then ended up doing is having a single point of failure. So within a business, when you actually think about it, if you knew that inside out, and the organization didn't actually take that IP and place it down into a process, you've now walked out the door with it. So that's gone. That is gone forever. And then all of a sudden, people then find themselves going, oh, wait a minute, we have to onboard someone else. And the person goes, well, how do you do it? And they're like, oh, you're going to have to figure it out because we don't actually know how you do it. And then all of a sudden, there's a lag in uptake. You want to really get people to hit the ground running when you employ anybody within the business, because
they need to feel important and part of the process. Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. It was funny. I left them some stuff, but they've since closed.
Yeah. Well, you can make that individual responsible for that process as well. Now, keep in mind, you're overall accountable for making sure that the process is done, but you can certainly make people responsible by giving them that template of the playbook and basically say, yeah, listen, I would love for you, this is the process that I've got right now, but I really want you to make this actual job your own. So therefore, could you, as you're doing it, can you put down what is your process? And at the end of the day, you're now creating your own job, which is a beautiful way to engage someone and basically say to them, you've got you've got the mold here to create this into the way that you want to actually create it and do it the way that you want to actually do it, rather than saying to somebody, this is how I want it done.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like, oh.
And having the playbook, then it is editable. You can change it. Say, hey, I found a better way of doing this, and people feel more acknowledged, important, and whatever it is. So I'm just looking at the time. I think we could talk for another 2 hours about this. But
I could talk about this all day. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I know. No, don't apologize. I think it's amazing. So overall, the thing is, get into the habit of recognizing what you are doing around a specific thing and start putting processes into place. If you have any aspirations to improve your business, to eventually have somebody else on, maybe it's just a pipe dream to have somebody else on, how cool would it be when you have some of those processes in place already? Now, Michael, it's been amazing having you, but tell me, if people want to, I'm going to pop up your website. So if people want to get hold of you, tell them when they hop on the website, you were telling me there was some way for them to access something on there.
Yeah, so as soon as you access the website, it'll pop up and advise you to get educated, or you want to be educated. And I send out weekly infographics, so therefore to teach people step-by-step guides. And as soon as you get that email, it's already pre-filled for you. All you need to do is place in your email address and press send, and then you start receiving that information. You can also reach out to me via the various different platforms, such as Facebook.
There's a Facebook business one. Yeah, I'm sure if you just pop your name in, which your name is just right there, and to Google, we will find all areas to contact you.
100%. I'm a very unique individual, so therefore I'm easily trackable once you put me into Google.
Well, mind you, mine's quite a common name, as you would know, in Ireland. But if you put Carmel Murphy in, I'm the only grey-haired granny Carmel Murphy in there, I think. So that's all right. So I'll do it. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to come and help us understand that number one habit, because I do think it's vital, and you've definitely triggered something in me to get a few more of my processes into a playbook. So thank you so much, and maybe we'll have a chat another time.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm more than happy to always help other entrepreneurs that are seeking out to grow their own success. So yeah, reach out to me if you want some more help, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So guys, if you're watching this and you say, oh my God, I have some more questions, make sure you put the questions underneath. Just tag myself or Michael, and we'll make sure that we answer them. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you hit that subscribe button wherever it is, from wherever I am right now. And I'll keep bringing you some more valuable, amazing people just like Michael, so that you can learn some more little tips and tricks to keep your business flowing too. But for now, it's bye from me.